Make them feel like they're important. Well, you don't make them feel like important when you're talking over them. When you try to change the subject. When you can't even read what they said back to you. We need to ask these people some questions.
You've reached the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. We are here to help. Para español,
Bullshit.
oprime número 2. To reach the Veterans Crisis Line, if you are a U.S. veteran or service member or are calling about one, press 1. To connect to specialized support for LGBTQ plus people under the age of 25, press 3. Otherwise, please remain on the line while we route your call to a Lifeline crisis counselor. Your call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance purposes. Please stay on the line while your call is directed to an available responder. Thank you for calling the Lifeline, Miss Ann. Can I get your first name?
I can barely hear you.
Hi, this is Ann. You've called the Lifeline. Can I get your first name?
Sean.
Hi, Sean. And what is your phone number?
I don't know my phone number, so there's no sense reading it back to me. It's also being recorded live on YouTube for my safety.
Okay, how can I help you this evening?
Well, ma'am, I keep getting sent to you guys after spending a whole week running around all the services. I get a hold of you guys on the weekends. The crisis line is supposed to be a crisis line, not just a suicide line. And all people want to do is try to push us to commit suicide by ignoring disabled and at-risk adults who are trying to turn in, well, obviously crimes committed against us.
What is your greatest concern right now?
My greatest concern is my safety as a disabled and at-risk adult, and the safety of the evidence that shows that police officers in every single agency in Tillamook, Oregon, is sending me around in a wild goose chase for absolutely nothing, talking in circles over me, and not listening to a thing I have to say. Being taken advantage of by the local community.
Are you safe right now?
I'm never safe because of the police.
Okay, where are you? Are you at your residence? Or are you out somewhere in the community?
No, I don't have any friends or family. That's why I keep getting blown off. Nobody makes these calls with me and helps me to explain it.
No, I mean, are you physically at home?
I don't have a home. I'm homeless. I'm living in a car. I was forced into homelessness because of gaslighting and the murder of my best friend, Natalie Marie Bollinger, back in 2017. Ever since, police officers have been very
hostile. Have you ever served in the U.S. military?
No.
Okay. And you're in Tillamook right now?
I am in Tillamook.
Okay, and are you having thoughts of suicide?
Well, see, ma'am, that's the problem, is that you guys only push the suicide stuff. I need you to do your jobs as mandated reporters about crimes against me. I need it to actually be documented and actually be heard and not be pushed into this suicide friggin' hole. No, I'm not trying to commit suicide, and I'm not trying to harm anybody else.
Okay,
Stop
are drugs or alcohol an issue for you?
Do what?
Are drugs or alcohol an issue for you?
No, they're not. I didn't come to you about drugs or alcohol. I didn't come to you to get pushed to suicide or to get talked over when I'm trying to turn in the crimes that were committed against me. So let me make sure that we get this perfectly clear. I've been through 6 months of this. Stop.
Okay, so who would you like me to report what to?
Well, ma'am, I would like to report for starters, Officer Lotham and Officer Trent Olson. When I first got to town,
Okay, and who would you like me to report this to?
Adult Protective Services.
Okay, have you called and filed Adult Protective Services for
Ma'am,
yourself?
now you're taking advantage of me and taking advantage of my disabilities. I am incapable. So it is important for you to understand that I am making it this way for a reason. Please stop changing the subject and allow me to make the report. Please.
Okay, well, unfortunately, at this time, the complaints that you're making don't reach the
You're not allowing me to finish. You're interrupting me and changing the
reporters.
subject, and it is inappropriate for you to do so. Please get me a hold of your supervisor right now.
Okay. I can go ahead and get your phone number and pass the information on to a supervisor.
Please get me, please put your supervisor on right now. Please put your supervisor on right now.
Unfortunately, we
You are making me unsafe now. You are making me unsafe. You are creating a safety issue for me by talking over me and disrespecting me and showing me that I have see, that's the thing. All you're interested in doing is arguing and talking over me. You're not interested in doing your job. Stop.
You've reached the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. We are here to help. Para español, oprime el número 2. To reach the Veterans Crisis Line, if you are a U.S. veteran or service member or are calling about one, press 1. To connect to specialized support for LGBTQ+ people under the age of 25, press 3. Otherwise, please remain on the line while we route your call to a Lifeline crisis counselor. Your call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance purposes. Please stay on the line while your call is directed to an available responder.
Thank you for calling the Lifeline. My name is Maria. Can I get your name, county, and confirmation of your phone number in case we get disconnected?
My name is Sean David Schwartz. I have to record my calls live on YouTube to show how impossible it is to turn in crimes committed by mandated reporters. I've been in this town for 6 months. I'm in Tillamook, Oregon.
Huh? Okie dokie. Well, what's going on exactly?
Well, my best friend got her brains blown out in Colorado in 2017. And I'm an at-risk and disabled adult. I jumped through all the hoops that I was told to jump through. But as a mandated reporter, no mandated reporter has saw fit to do anything other than change the subject, talk about themselves, or send me to somebody else. It is literally nobody's job to investigate crimes against at-risk adults, apparently. I'm tired of being beaten up for being gay. I'm tired of being made fun of for being straight. I'm not either one. That doesn't make me a bad person. I'm tired of people taking advantage.
Has someone been abusing you?
A lot of people have been abusing me. It's been it's been nonstop ongoing abuse since October of 2017.
Okay. Are there specific individuals?
There are. There was a young woman named Natalie Bollinger and her twin sister Alicia Bollinger, and their mother and two stepmothers and an ex-boyfriend named Tim Beeson, and her real mother's name was Rose M. Kelly. Because Natalie Bollinger was shot in the head, I spent over a year going to mandated reporters for help to try to get help stopping the gang stalking and the harassment and the bullying. I didn't have the ability to do a lot of electronic stuff. I needed help with it. And they took advantage of that, and their gang stalking hasn't stopped. I still deal with it to this day. I record the threats and harassment and intimidation against me, but law enforcement doesn't look. I'm an autistic adult. I can't take care of myself, and instead of these officers taking it seriously, they send me to mental health. And those officers, they're too numerous to even count. Now, the ones here in Tillamook,
Can
this is
you
the ones that...
Can you kind of give me a timeline of events if you're comfortable? So, Natalie Ballinger was one of the ones gang stalking you, but
Yes.
then she was shot in the head, or
Then, yes, she was shot in the head.
I guess
All
where does
right,
that-
so she was my best friend. She was threatening to kill herself if I didn't go to Virginia. I'm disabled, so it wasn't a smart idea for me to go. I couldn't take care of myself, but I did go. And her and her sister, we went and had a lot of fun. We went and did fun things. We did what they asked. And then, of course, that should have been fine. But no, her family wasn't fine with it. Now, she was a grown adult, and she was injured because she tried killing herself because I wasn't there fast enough. Anyway, long story short, they gave me a phone that was broken and it didn't work. And my phone broke down, or my car broke down, and I was severely dehydrated for 5 days. This is all documented. But nobody will look at any of that. Instead, I don't get any further than a phone call before I'm being sent to somebody else, who sends me to somebody else, who sends me to some autism advocacy agency that says it's not their job, that sends me to the state police. I've been from one end of the country to the other calling mandated reporters everywhere I go about the abuse. It got to the point where I literally had to do the same things that they were doing just to prove that it was illegal and that the cops should have shut up instead of talking over me like I'm retarded, telling me stuff was not illegal when people do it to me. But if I do it, then they'll charge me with a crime. Why is it that they're so heavily invested in preventing me from being heard and talking over me? And sending me to all these other lines or whatever that they want me to go to. Call this place, call that place. I go to mandated reporters that are supposed to help me as far as being a caseworker. Instead, all they want me to do is go there for therapy. They do nothing to assist me to turn in the crimes. They do nothing to try to understand my disabilities. They only exploit them. If I explain to them anything about my disabilities, they exploit them to their fullest. Now, the mandated reporters, since I've gotten to this town who have committed crimes, start off with Officer Lotham and Officer Trent Olson. When I was being harassed and stalked by a woman named Molly, and I don't know Molly's last name, they could have done something to get that name, to get her last name, but they didn't. And I recorded all of these situations. But no matter what, nobody looks at it. None of these services here will look at any of it, and they won't stop talking to me or trying to give me a time limit. It's a lot of stuff. It's 6 years worth of stuff. And as far as jurisdiction goes, abuse against an at-risk adult is federal. Now, before it can get to the federal level, somebody has to pick it up and actually do something about it. Now, with Lotham and Olson, they shouldn't be allowed near me. The situation with Molly continued, and she continued to harass a lot of people. And instead of the police doing their jobs and listening to the victim and actually doing something about the situation with Molly, every time that I've gone to them, they've talked over me, blown me off, and told me that it's somebody else's job. I need to go to mental health. Mental health tells me it's not their job. I got to go to the police. I literally can't take care of myself, and all of my money is spent running around to all of these different services who don't do that job, apparently. I had to try to turn in Natalie and her friends and family who were threatening to kill me and my friends and family for over a year before Natalie was killed.
But Natalie isn't threatening to kill you anymore, correct?
She can't. She's dead.
Right.
She
I'm
got
just trying to gather, because you keep speaking about her like she's in present tense, but she's in past tense. It's throwing me off. So, but Alicia and Roseanne and Ken, they're all still alive.
Most of them are still alive, yes. There's a few other people who are witnesses who are dead, like Stephen McMillian is now deceased. Christine Buhit is now dead. Anna Hunka is now dead. Rana Ingersoll is now dead. And there's a lot of people who are missing. As far as my communication difficulties, the people prior to talking to you were very inappropriate. And the way that they dealt with it was also inappropriate. Anyway, the situation that I've had to deal with here is that just like everywhere else, I'm sent around in circles where I'm lied to by every agency. I know what the laws are. I call up these agencies to get them to follow the law, and they outright refuse, or they try to confuse the situation by talking over the victim or by sending the victim to someone else. This is not okay, especially when it turns into 6 months of me being sent around to the same mandated reporters while I'm stuck in public, going out of my way not to have a mental breakdown from abuse. And that includes neglect by the police and by the Department of Health and Human Services. And of course, in specific, by individuals who work there. And I can't remember every single one of their names. I end up meeting way too many people, getting sent around on a giant loop to end up right back where I started, for them to send me right back around again. Suicide hotline and the, what do they call that? Crisis hotline. They're fused into one, and the thing is that if somebody's in crisis, that doesn't mean that they're suicidal. It doesn't mean that they're trying to commit suicide. The thing is that when somebody is pushed to the point that they want their life to end, it is usually because of people like the police or, of course, 988 blowing us off, making us feel inhuman when we go to them for help, when we are scared. I shouldn't be forced to act like... Do what?
I was going to say, it sounds like you have a very strong sense of patient advocacy and that you care deeply about the human rights. Like both your rights, other people's rights, in general, those of individuals suffering from mental illnesses and disabilities.
Absolutely. But the other thing is, like, I grew up in the 80s.
That you care so deeply about it.
I grew up in the 80s when everybody just ran around beating up everybody else for being gay. So I've been beaten up for being gay most of my life. I've never been gay. I also get bullied for being straight. I've never been straight. I'm just not interested. But the reason I'm telling you this is because I'm trying to get you as a mandated reporter, just like I was before, to get you all to do your jobs as mandated reporters and allow me to report it in a safe way, to allow me to do it without having to talk to my predators to turn them in and having to do it by myself. I'm autistic. I'm not retarded. And instead of people talking over me and sending me to mental health, it is very important for the victims to work together and to stick together. And I have hundreds of people that have been recorded that they're afraid to go to the police, and they explain why they're afraid to go to the police. They also explain that their friends and family were threatened because they spoke up. It is not okay. Many of those people, they ended up being scammers, gang stalkers. And I know that people just want to play that off as if it's some myth about the Illuminati or something. No, people are very selfish. If you and your family don't like somebody because they stood up to you, and you and your family go out of your way to make their life a living hell, that's gang stalking. It's not like it's some alien brainwave or some crazy crap like that. The problem that I have is that I have communication issues and difficulties. And instead of people understanding that it's because I'm in a state of crisis, not because I'm some nut job. And then they need to understand why I'm in a state of crisis. Natalie Bollinger getting shot in the head resulted in that gang stalking being put on the internet. And then they got to harass me in all sorts of Natalie Bollinger groups. When I say they, I mean the public, because this didn't just stay as Natalie Bollinger and a few of her friends. The fact that she had me stalked across multiple jurisdictions, the fact that she called a woman named Maddie Boa in Boulder, Colorado, and had Maddie Boa run around and slander my name, resulting in people harming me, people assaulting me, people spitting on me, people calling me horrible, horrible names. Meanwhile, it didn't matter because at that point, Natalie, well, she got what she wanted. She was embarrassed and she wanted to retaliate against me for embarrassing her because I had a mental breakdown when I was in Virginia while I was severely dehydrated. Being dehydrated is not against the law. The thing is that I wasn't arrested. She lied and told everybody I was arrested and that I was stalking her and that I threatened to kill her and her family and all sorts of other crazy stuff that never happened. The thing is that I never got to tell my side. It didn't matter. Just like always, if people gang up on me, I lose. And since I don't have a family, I have to depend on people who are friendly to me. And most of that time, that's just business owners, or not business owners, but people who work at different businesses that it's their job to be friendly. My friends and family take advantage of my disabilities by talking over me the same way that law enforcement does, as if I'm retarded. Now, when I tried to turn in my predators, I was blown off by law enforcement, and then Natalie got her brains blown out. By that point, I had already gone to all the therapists in Colorado that I was sent to, and all of the therapists in Nebraska that I'd sent to, because they're mandated reporters too, and they hadn't done anything except skis off of me to get disability money, or what do they call that, Medicare and Medicaid. It's fraud. Now, these people harassed me on the internet and real life for almost a year before I ever did anything even close to that back. I literally had to scream at the top of my lungs for help because instead of people doing something about the threats or harassment against me, they just wanted to put me on suicide watch or tell me to shut up. Tell me, hey, stop being negative. I say, hey, I need someone to go in with me or these services are going to talk over me and treat me like I'm a retard. They won't help me with the things that I need help with. I'm being stalked by Natalie and her family, and I need these mandated reporters to do their job. They're just going to send me around in circles unless a friend or family goes in with me. Will you please? But my friends and family, I never got to explain it that far because they were too busy talking to me like I was an idiot. When Natalie got killed, they all threw me away. They didn't want to admit that they'd had any part in it. They didn't want to admit that they'd helped to get me to Virginia to begin with. They didn't want to admit that they'd helped me to get back to Colorado. They wanted to pretend like I didn't exist. And that's what gaslighting does. It's even worse to get that when you're trying to turn in police officers and you're getting gaslighted by the agencies that you're supposed to go to when you're abused. If the cops won't do their jobs as mandated reporters, I have to turn them in. Making me turn them in to themselves while I'm in a constant state of panic and crisis. That's not okay. Now, the situation with Molly, there was also a guy named Tom. I have the recordings with them of the crimes that they've committed. I've gone in repeatedly in person to try to show it. They don't work with my disabilities. They work against them. That includes TFCC, TCCHC, every police agency that I've spoken with. There are multiple assaults out here that I recorded against at-risk adults, some of them by police officers. some of them against children by police officers. I don't want to be stuck out here. I don't want to be autistic anymore because it makes it too easy to talk over me and walk over me. And because I don't have any help going through evidence or filling out the paperwork, and because I can speak decently well, I end up having all of my rights walked over and talked over. I'm tired of, I don't have any of my gay friends anymore because they all threw me away because of the situation with Natalie. Not in specific, but because I went to them for help and they wanted to tell me that they have it worse than me because they're gay and they're focused on gay problems right now and gay rights right now. But what about your friends' rights, And I'm tired of the hatred. I'm tired of being divided and conquered. I'm tired of my gay friends not getting along with my black friends, not getting along with my straight friends or my white friends or my female friends or my male friends. As an at-risk and disabled adult, I'm supposed to go to a friend or family member first for my safety because it is so often and so frequent that law enforcement will talk over the victim and grill them as if they're a predator. And it's not appropriate. Now, the situation with Lotham and Trent Olson resulted in Molly being allowed to threaten, harass, and intimidate me for over a month. It also resulted in me being harmed by the people who worked at Fred Meyer's. They just assumed the right and wrong based on, Molly freaked out, tried threatening me again, beat on my vehicle, broke glass around my vehicle. And the cop who showed up then was Officer Sadler. And I tried to turn all of these officers in. They just kept sending me to TFCC, TCCHC, and all of those places that take advantage of us as far as Medicare and Medicaid goes. So they need to be turned in too, especially Dr. Donnell Boggs. There's also people who have been harassing me and threatening me over the internet and by phone because people keep giving out my phone numbers, not respecting the safety issues that are important when you make a mandated reporter call. And I have to record it because mandated reporters so frequently don't. It's not your fault that the people I talked to before this were rude and inconsiderate, but I need it to be known that I can't possibly remember the names of all the victims, and I can't possibly remember the names of all of the predators, but I have it documented. I have it documented in screenshots. I have it documented on the internet from predators themselves and from some of the other victims themselves. I had to act like my predators in order to try to get law enforcement to listen. They still wouldn't.
So what do you feel is the end game of this? Do you feel like someone needs to go to jail, or do you feel like some level of police intervention? I guess what is the end game of this mandated reporting that you are seeking?
There's no
outside of general reports and
investigations
investigations being made.
The whole point is to get myself and my evidence safe. I'm not safe out here. I can't go through my evidence out here. I can't take care of myself because of my physical disabilities. And because I'm autistic, being stuck in public means I literally can't function. Ever. It's the noise.
Okay.
That's why calling at night is a good time to call, because at nighttime there's less noise usually. And I can't function through that. There's no end game to it. These are crimes that were committed against me and they need to be turned in. And yes, the criminals need to be taken to justice. They need to be brought to justice. This has gotten too many people killed. Mandated reporters in Colorado, Nebraska, and Virginia didn't want to do their jobs for me, and that resulted in Natalie Bollinger being killed, and she was another at-risk adult. It is a felony for me and Natalie Bollinger to go to at-risk adults and for them to act so unprofessionally about this, and the fact that Natalie Bollinger ended up dead over this, makes every mandated reporter that both her and I went to before she was killed legally responsible for felonies. As mandated reporters, when they didn't do their jobs, it was just a misdemeanor. When she ended up dead because of their neglect, it became a felony, and all of those officers in all of those departments that I'd had to go to worked together across multiple jurisdictions, the same as Natalie Bollinger had worked across multiple jurisdictions with her friends because she was embarrassed. Except now the stakes were a lot bigger because Natalie got a big old hole in her brain. They gang stalked me until I had a mental breakdown. And then instead of the police helping me, they took me to the hospital so that they could call me mentally ill. And then I was told, hey, when these people are threatening your life, tell them that you're mentally ill and they have to stop. Well, that doesn't work. That just gives them fuel for the fire. And then them and their friends have more stuff to make fun of you about. These predators have made a whole lot of fake profiles to harass me. They make Natalie Bollinger sites all the time because it's true crime. It's a big thing in true crime for people to get involved. The problem is that they were involved and interactive in a way that they shouldn't have been. It should have been the police doing their jobs. Should have been the police doing their jobs to protect me instead of sending me to therapists. And to this day, that's all they do, is send me around to therapists who will set me up for therapy instead of doing their jobs to turn it in right away. The Violence Against Women Act also counts for men, but we don't have any assistance, and if we're autistic and can't function, that's exploited. I'm tired of people treating me like I'm a bad person when there's actual rapists out there. I've been raped, and the stuff that I'm going through now is worse than rape. People don't commit suicide over abuse. They commit suicide over being blown off. So it's important for Suicide Hotline to not blow people off, to not redirect the victim because they're having a hard enough time saying what's going on. And every time that they're redirected, it makes it that much harder for them to speak, as well as that much harder for them to trust you.
Ben, if I may ask, has this... Sean, I'm sorry, my brain goes for Sean,
Right.
If I may ask, I've got all these S names and B names.
Sorry, there's a car driving by, so I can't hear you.
Sean.
All right, go ahead. I can hear you now. Yes. Are you having connection issues?
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry.
Just a couple, but it's okay. Hey, so with all of this undue stress upon you, have you been having any suicidal thoughts?
And see, that's what it always comes around to. I already explained at the beginning of the call, I'm not interested in suicide. This is about turning in the abuse against me.
Are you there?
I am here.
John?
Yes.
There we go. You cut out for a second, though.
I haven't cut out. I'm still here.
Yeah. John, I mean, the most I can do is make a report to ABS, but this is very vague. Do you have phone numbers for these individuals or addresses?
I don't, and that's the problem, is that I haven't had any assistance. I've had to do this all myself. This is the police's job to investigate, and they haven't. They keep deferring me to mental health instead of doing their jobs to investigate.
Okay.
And it isn't just vague. I've given you a lot of details. But there's also the fact that it's 6 years of abuse that I have to tell you about, and I have to stop the abuse here in Tillamook before I can focus on anything else. Before I can take care of my food, water, and shelter, I have to be able to stop the abuse that prevents me from being able to function, and that includes being blown off and sent to others. I would like to have my evidence in front of me. It's literally in my car right now. I have no access to it. I don't have a place to go through this electronic stuff. Sending me to the library or a bunch of different services that are supposed to help. The point here is that they're not helping. That's the point. None of the services here are helping. I'm trying to turn in TFCC and TCCHC for committing Medicare and Medicaid fraud. That's one of a great many crimes. When I told you about Lotham and Trent Olson, and when I told you about Officer Sadler, those are all three officers who blew me off in the situation with Natalie on multiple occasions. Then when I had to try to turn them in, those officers were the ones who showed up, and they got to intimidate me instead of me being able to turn them in. I'm now having to deal with officers like on November 19th of last year, having Lotham in the hospital. I'm trying to turn him in because he didn't do his job repeatedly as a mandated reporter, and he got to be there to grill me. He got to be there to intimidate me, and by law, he's not allowed to do that. And as soon as they realized he was the officer that I was one of the officers I was trying to turn in, they should have turned him away immediately instead of allowing him to talk over me and intimidate me. There's also the assault against me at the hospital when I went there again on the 28th of January of this year, where I was assaulted by one of the doctors there after talking to the lady at TFCC who only wanted to ask very pointed questions to try to pretend that I was trying to commit suicide because that somehow magically alleviates all of the crimes committed against me by law enforcement and these agencies. Stop trying to convince me to say something that you can try to use to put me in a lockup where they're just going to use it to discredit me. Instead of trying to kill myself, I'm calling to make reports. It is inappropriate to repeatedly, every time that I call, for people to redirect it to only suicide, we can only do this, we can only do that. The situation with Lotham on multiple occasions since that instance at the hospital have been highly inappropriate. The doctor who assaulted me, his name is Stephan L. Stephanides. It was at nighttime, because the lady that I was talking with from Tillamook Family Counseling Center, who was at the hospital, they didn't get a hold of DHS. None of them ever did. They told me to do it myself. They always redirect me. And then, of course, APS tells me to go to these agencies that tell me to go to APS. They're supposed to work together to assist the victim. Not everybody plays stupid and send us round and round in circles like a bunch of morons. Because the thing is that a disabled adult, just because we're disabled adults, doesn't mean that we're morons.
So, Sean, about the evidence for this, you said you had it all in your car, but you don't have access to your car.
I'm in my car right now. What I'm trying to explain to you is that my disability is prevented. I'm not supposed to lift anything more than 10 pounds. I'm not supposed to twist. It's difficult for me to walk. It's a whole bunch of evidence that is sitting in my car. I go to the Department of Health and Human Services. I explain to them, hey, it's right there in my car. I just need help getting it from my car to this building in a safe room where I can have some peace and quiet. Instead of waiting for someone else to victimize me for being homeless or yell something hateful out the window at me or throw something at me or beat on my vehicle or play victim because I exist. I had housing. I was victimized out of it. There's the situation with autism where when there's vehicles going by, Obviously, I can't comprehend what's going on when it's the cars going by and you, because I can't hear either one of you. What I hear is noise. So I have to have peace and quiet. Otherwise, all of that stuff becomes a distraction for me. For an autistic person in a state of crisis, you need to understand that autistic person and autism. That state of crisis isn't they're trying to commit suicide. It's that they're trying to get help because they're being abused, and their communication issues, along with people's assumptions of autism, and people wanting to protect their coworkers, results in a very tough situation for us when we don't have a friend or family member to go in with us for our protection. Natalie Bollinger got away with all the stuff that she did before she died because I didn't have a friend or family member who would do anything other than send me to suicide hotline or send me to the cops or, of course, send me to therapy. Meanwhile, all of these therapists that I'm sent to, they're supposed to be caseworkers who are supposed to help me turn in abuse to Adult Protective Services, but they won't do that. They just want to change the subject over and over again to housing. They want to ignore the fact that it takes forever to get into housing, and I need them to turn this stuff into Adult Protective Services right away. And instead, I have yet to have Adult Protective Services to show up and attempt to secure the evidence and secure me for my safety from these people. I can't go through thousands and thousands of recordings for all the bits and pieces that people want when I don't have a place to plug in my computer, and I can't physically walk my backpack in and out of the library every day. I can't physically walk my backpack in and out of the Department of Health and Human Services every day. Meanwhile, I've got 3 computers full of evidence, 4 phones full of evidence, a whole bunch of USB sticks full of evidence of people harassing and threatening me. And then, of course, me going to mandated reporters and them doing the same thing that the lady before I spoke to you did. Oh, well, are you thinking about committing suicide? Are you thinking about harming yourself or others? Are you a veteran? No, I'm not a veteran. No, I'm not trying to harm myself or others. I'm trying to get help stopping harm against me. I'm trying to get help turning in the people who harmed me so that they don't have more access to harm me and more access to harm my friends and family. Meanwhile, I've got a whole bunch of evidence of them threatening my friends and family, and my friends and family getting a hold of me and telling me that they're being threatened by these people. I've also got recordings of places that I was forced to stay because mandated reporters wouldn't do their jobs. I had to stay with drug dealers and drug addicts. I've got footage on my YouTube channel of one of the guys that I was staying with. He was a drug dealer. I didn't have anywhere else to go. I was all the way in Tennessee. I keep getting told that I got to go to where my predators are to turn them in. I keep getting told all sorts of different variations of the law, with the exception of what the law actually states. And what the law actually states is that when I come to somebody about my abuse and about my disabilities, they're supposed to, number one, they're supposed to make sure that my safety and my evidence are secured. That's number one. Not my safety from killing myself or my safety from killing somebody else. I'm not trying to turn in crimes that I might commit. I'm trying to turn in crimes that were actually committed against me. It's not appropriate to change the subject to suicide when somebody's talking about abuse, because changing the subject makes the victim feel so small. When you tell them that it's not your job, it makes the victim feel so small. When you make them go back to literally the people who are predatory towards them to turn them in, it makes them feel so small. Instead of working together with me for my safety and the safety of the evidence, I need people to actually focus literally on that part instead of sending me around to all these other services. And I understand my words don't come together right, and they're not perfect. And that's because that suicide watch bully trap doesn't work. Bullying somebody into saying that they want their life to end so that you can lock them up, all that does is discredit the victim. It gives them the mentally ill tag. And then nobody will ever listen to them again. Anybody can rape them. Anybody can beat them. Police officers, their parents, anyone. And for me, being a child in the system, due to no fault of my own, I got the mentally ill tag at a young age because my parents couldn't stay off the cocaine. None of these mandated reporters that I'm sent to that are supposed to be caseworkers will sit down with me in the evidence without trying to redirect. That's never acceptable. It's a trick question. If we're bullied to the point that we want our lives to end, but instead of trying to end our lives, we're trying to turn in the people who are bullying us, gaslighting us, threatening our lives, we get locked up in a mental institution. Of course, if these people do this to me over and over and over again, people like Natalie and her friends and family want to threaten my life over and over again and then lie to me to the courts. See, that's what gaslighting is. That's why people gaslight the at-risk adults, the easiest to victimize. How long can you expect me to be hit by people before I hit back? And meanwhile, I'm not hitting people back. I'm not even threatening to hit people back. I'm saying that I should have the right to defend myself when people are hitting me. I should have the right to go to the police without being blown off and sent to mental health. I should be allowed to go in when anybody can go into an interrogation room when they've been abused for their safety. They can go in there and they can sit down and safely and quietly write their report without having to try to give a verbal statement in front of their predators or to their predators about the abuse. If you were raped, how much sense would it make to send you to your rapist to turn in the rape? It doesn't make any sense.
Wouldn't make much sense at all, no.
Well, that's what I'm being forced to do here. As an at-risk and disabled adult, I have to turn in crimes that are committed against me, including people who refuse to do their jobs as mandated reporters, because I'm going to them because they're mandated reporters. I need them to secure my safety and that of the evidence. All of these places have rooms they can let me sit in peace and quiet, instead of talking over me. Talking over me prevents me from sitting in that room with my evidence and writing it down. When they say, oh, I gave you a piece of paper and a pencil. Yeah, but then the people that I was trying to turn in, you had to sit at the table with me and not shut up. I can't write it down when the person sitting with me won't shut up, won't stop changing the subject, and is entirely too demanding of my attention. How can I possibly fill that out when somebody is talking over me the whole time I need to be filling it out? The other thing is it's inappropriate for them to make me do that in a public area there. But they made me do it in a public area there last time I went. I'm also being forced to turn them into their bosses, which I've tried over and over again. Their bosses never get back a hold of me. Meanwhile, the stalkers get a hold of me from restricted numbers, and many of these agencies that I call, they call me back from restricted numbers. So I don't even know the difference between somebody who's calling to threaten to kill me and my family or somebody who's one of these agencies that's supposed to be in contact with me. Have you ever been stalked? Not that it's my business.
No.
The thing is that
I have not.
the internet stalking and the fact that they did it in real life too, and they did it across multiple jurisdictions too. And nobody would help me to turn it in because I have no friends or family. I still have evidence of the stalking by Natalie Marie Bollinger and her family, and I was never allowed to go to court. They kept threatening to kill my friends and family until my friends and family ran away. But you know what? I've done many of those things back. That is literally what I was pushed to. While these people were literally killing my friends, the worst I could bring myself to do was to threaten a couple of them back. I threatened Tim Beeson, or sorry, not Tim Beeson. I threatened Ted Bollinger, and I threatened Donald Trump. I threatened Ted Bollinger to try to get a court date. He's one of my predators and one of Natalie's. I threatened Donald Trump because literally nobody would listen to me. And I was hoping that if I threatened Donald Trump, the FBI would get involved and do their jobs. But they didn't. There's a guy named Dan Faber. A lot of these people, if I have room to sit down with my evidence, I've got their phone numbers written down in the phone that I'm using right now and several of the other phones. I've got the evidence of the correspondence and the threats against my life and against others in my phones, on my computers, in paper evidence. But nobody is assisting me in going through it. They're just sending me around in circles still after 7 years. 7 years. I hurt my back in October of 2015. Natalie Bollinger, the last time I saw her was on October 18th of 2016. On October 18th of 2017, I was in jail in Arapahoe County trying to turn in Natalie's family, who are still alive and still gaslighting me, along with the people from these Natalie Bollinger true crime sites that still keep harassing me, still make fake accounts over and over again. I can't defend myself against this, and the police and these agencies like the Department of Health and Human Services and the Northwest Senior and Disability Services, they're all sending me around in circles. TFCC, same thing. Danelle Boggs is one of the people at TFCC or at TCCHC that did it. And also Eileen Brandine, I believe is her name. They're both therapists that I was referred to, that were supposed to help out to get the investigation going. But instead, they set me up for meetings way far off. And then I go to those meetings, and it's not a meeting to try to do their job. It's a therapy meeting where they're going to try to talk me out of turning in my predators, tell me it's not going to work. I'm like, I'm following the law. Danelle Boggs is a doctor, and she even admitted that she quit her last job because they're not doing their jobs. Her last job was at TFCC, that's Tillamook Family Counseling Center. There's also a lot of witnesses like the Scudders, and I do have their phone numbers. They're actually on the internet, which sucks because I didn't want to post them up there. I was having a panic attack. I was giving those phone numbers to the police. They wouldn't listen to me. They kept talking over me, and which officers in specific would all depend on which time, and that's why I recorded all well. I was instructed to by lawyers. But those lawyers also tell me that because I'm called mentally ill, that I have to have a friend or family member, or all of you guys are just going to violate my rights. Every mandated reporter will violate my rights and talk over me and play stupid, especially if I'm trying to turn in another mandated reporter. Because all of you have to fear that. Because all of you do the same protocols that get innocent people killed. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. John, how do you spell your last name? Is it SWARTZ or SCH?
SCHWARTZ. I wasn't able to fill out a job application without assistance before Natalie died. So obviously I'm not able to fill out paperwork now without help. Natalie helped me out with filling out job applications. I miss her a lot. She knew how to help. She just couldn't. Her family wouldn't let her. Anyway, her and her friends stalked me to every state that I've been to. They've either stalked me on the internet, or people from these two true crime sites take advantage of me, or local law enforcement in the hospitals treat me horribly for trying to turn in their friends and families. One of the guys here that was telling me he goes to church with some of the police officers and he'll talk to them for me. I don't need it for them to do stuff backwoodsy and behind closed doors. There needs to be some transparency, and there need to be consequences for mandated reporters who don't do their jobs. There need to be consequences for people who take advantage of at-risk adults. There need to be consequences for people who hurt my gay friends just because they're different. There need to be consequences for all of these people. But the thing is that a disabled and at-risk adult who's homeless, we don't have any rights. People just assign whatever they want to their hatred. You have no idea how many people have called me racist or sexist or sexually derogatory names and terms. Well, now I just scream at the top of my lungs on Facebook saying those things back, just to the general public, because I can't say those things back to the people that say them to me, or I'm a horrible monster who's trying to victimize them. That's how they play it off. When I say they, I don't mean to be disrespectful. I don't mean to be vague. I mean that there's literally thousands of crimes that have been committed against me. I get rid of most of the trolls that get onto my YouTube channel and harass me. I take screenshots of it, though, before I hide user from this channel. But the thing is, that internet, that's my access to my friends and family. That's my access to the evidence that'll clear my name and help stop the abuse that I'm going through now, because I'm being harmed over a reputation that's undeserved. Nobody should be stalked. Nobody should be assaulted. Nobody should have their lives threatened or have their families' lives threatened. But being blown off by the people that I'm supposed to turn it into for 7 years it's not okay. Now, if you could, because I have to record things safely, because I don't have a safe place to do this. I don't have a safe room to sit in. I don't have... Do you know what sensory overload is?
Yes. Yes, I do.
I have that. And I've been in sensory overload since October of 2015 when I hurt my back and people stopped being my friend because I couldn't do things for them anymore. But I kept on being sent to my friends and family. That's what these services told me. Well, don't you have a friend or family member that can help? No, I don't. They're all drug addicts or child molesters or rapists or people who financially take advantage of others. I am the worst possible child that my family could have had because I'm the easiest to victimize. My little sister and my older brother and my little brother, we're all different. Every one of us completely different, but we don't get along. I had to pay my family to try to help, but my family just took advantage of me because they're drug addicts. I don't do drugs. I drink coffee, I smoke cigarettes, and I even try to stay away from weed, but everybody here, when I tell them, hey, I got a problem and I need some help, I need somebody to go in with me. Oh, well, I can't do nothing, they won't listen to me, I'm a felon, or, oh, they won't listen to me because I'm disabled too, but here's some pot. So then I end up with a bunch of pot in my vehicle. I don't want to smoke it. I don't want it in my vehicle. If I do smoke it, it better be from the dispensary, but smoking it as a homeless person just gives me anxiety because it's illegal to smoke it as a homeless person. We're stuck in public. Going to the bathroom in public is illegal. So obviously smoking pot is not going to be legal except in your own residence. My car is the closest I have to a residence, but it's sitting on somebody else's property, and that puts me at risk because I have no friends or family's property to park it on. This is a parking lot with signs all over it that say no overnight parking, and I've been here for 6 months. So, could you read back to me what you're going to...
What county do you reside in currently?
Do what?
What county are you in currently?
I'm in Tillamook County, and I do apologize, a truck drove by.
That's okay. What was the name of the county again? Tillamook, you said?
Tillamook, yes.
Tillamook. Tillamook. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. I will take all of the information you provided. I will make a report to APS.
Would you read it back to me so I can make sure you got it correct?
You've got long-term gang stalking and abuse from several individuals, many of whom include Natalie Ballinger, Lisa Ballinger, Natalie being dead, Kim Beeson, Roseanne Kelly, let's see, pretty much that whole family. There's a long list. And then I also have your phone number that you can be reached at. Are you comfortable with me listing your phone number in the APS report?
No, I'm not.
So that way APS could be the ones to reach out to you.
Yes, you can give it to them, but don't give it to me right now because it's being recorded. All right, so what did you write down about the mandated reporters here that I tried to turn in?
It was just simply really too much for me to write in, but I can put in...
No. You wanted to redirect the conversation, and you have gone out of your way not to write down anything about any of the mandated reporters I'm trying to turn in. That's the problem. All right, we're going to you with real problems and real issues, including abuse by police officers and abuse by the local services, and you're not writing it down or turning it in. That's the thing. I asked you to read it back to me so I could make sure that you did include that part, and you absolutely didn't. You didn't put anything down about Lotham. You didn't put anything about Trent Olson. You are literally committing felonies at this point.
Okay.
It is not okay to assist those people in getting away, even if they are law enforcement.
You're not going to inform APS of these when, along with the supplemental materials you have in your car, you're not going to provide that to them when they reach out to you?
See, now you're putting words in my mouth and you are redirecting it yet again. I absolutely am going to provide all that stuff. I've been trying to provide it. I've been going to all of these services for 6 months, trying to shove it in their faces.
Yeah.
It was honestly too much, so much that even though I explained to you that that was really very important, you didn't write down any of it. You didn't write down any of the services that I went to. You didn't write down any of the names of officers or any of the agencies that I went to. You didn't write down the name of Dr. Danelle Boggs. You didn't write down any of that. You are playing selectively deaf. That is not acceptable. That is literally what puts us at risk and results in long-term harm, which does lead to suicide. Why is 988 trying to push victims to suicide?
Sean, I'm going to call APS. I'm going to make this report. Do you need anything else before I let you go this evening?
Yes, I need you to do your job to turn in Dr. Danelle Boggs. Can you write that down?
Have a great evening.
Dr. Danelle Boggs. You see?
You've reached the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. We are here to help. Para español, oprime el número 2. To reach the Veterans Crisis Line, if you are a U.S. veteran or service member or are calling about one, press 1. To connect to specialized support for LGBTQ plus people under the age of 25, press 3. Otherwise, please remain on the line while we route your call to a Lifeline crisis counselor. Your call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance purposes. Please stay on the line while your call is directed to an available responder.
Thank you for calling the Lifeline. My name is Erin. Can I get your name and county and confirmation of your phone number in case we get disconnected?
My name is Sean Schwartz. I have to record live for my safety, so... Whoa, you're squeaking at me. Hello?
Hello?
Do you have somebody else on the line?
No, I don't.
All right, well, I'm getting...
I don't.
I'm getting...
You said your name's Sean?
Yes, I'm getting squeaking and echoing on my side, but I'm trying to work with it.
Okay.
I need to turn in the two people tonight whose names that I know from 988 because, well, you're a mandated reporter and it's against the law for you not to. One of them is somebody who had a gentleman's voice named Mary, who I just got off the phone with. And another one is, God, it starts with an L and it's recorded on my channel. All right, I can't remember. That's one of the issues with being under stress, is that I lose names and numbers first. That's the first thing I forget when I'm stressed. Anyway, Mary, I just got off the phone with. I was trying to explain about the abuse here in Tillamook. Mary wanted to do what all of you guys do, which is sending me around on a wild goose chase through all of the services here. I explained about the services here and the abuse against me by at-risk adults. I explained the names of the officers. I tried to turn in what needed to be turned in. And when I asked Mary, Mary was trying to hang up on me, trying to change it to the suicide thing, trying to change the subject to literally anything else. Now I explained, hey, I'm trying to turn in crimes committed against me, and you are a mandated reporter. It is against the law for you not to do this. So then, when I...
Right, you said that was Mary. Oh, I'm sorry, I just wanted to make sure I had the right name. You said that was Mary, and she'd asked you about suicide. Have you been having thoughts of suicide tonight?
Please stop changing the subject and listen to me. I'm trying to turn in Mary. Stop changing the subject. We need to focus on the crimes that were committed tonight. Crimes committed by your agency. 988 is not acceptable. This is not acceptable for us to be sent to 988, for them to send us literally right back to the predators we're trying to turn in. Anyway, when I asked...
Yes, this is 988. You're right. No, this is 988.
Right, now let me finish. I'm trying to turn in Mary. Now let me finish. Let me finish. Please stop being disrespectful and allow me to finish.
Have you had thoughts of suicide tonight?
Just so you know, you are also a crisis line, which is why I'm sent to you. Instead of pushing the suicide thing like it's crack, listen to me. I went to you about mandated reporter stuff because this is a quasi almost safe way for me to do it. Now, when Mary did not do Mary's job, Mary did not write down the names of any of the officers. When Mary was trying to hang up on me like you guys do when you show us that we're not important, I asked Mary to read back what Mary was sending to Adult Protective Services. Mary did not write down any of the things that I explained about the police, the mandated reporters, or any of the abuse that happened here in Tillamook. Mary didn't write any of it down. None of it. Not any of the names, not the name of Dr. Danelle Boggs, not the name of Officer Lotham, or Lothman, whatever his name is, not the name of Trent Olson. Mary didn't write any of it down. And made excuses and pushed the suicide thing, same as you. I would like to make a report about abuse against an at-risk adult by Mary tonight.
So you're not going to answer the question about whether or not you've had thoughts of suicide recently?
See, you're changing the subject and going out of your way not to do your job. Stop playing head games. You are mandated reporters. I am telling you about abuse against an at-risk adult. Me. It is your job to write it down. It is your job to turn it in. It is not your job to continually change the subject to anything that makes it okay for you to not do your job. You do not get to keep asking me that question. I am not trying to kill myself. I am not trying to harm others. We already established that at the beginning of the call. I already established that. When you want to make it so, you want to answer the question. No, I did answer the question. I answered it at the beginning of the call. I also told you that I am calling you because you are a mandated reporter. I also called to explain to you that the last mandated reporter that I talked to was also with 988, and that mandated reporter did not do their jobs either.
Do you have any safety concerns in general? If not suicide, but just general safety concerns?
I do. I'm stuck in this town and I'm broke.
Okay.
I've spent all of my money going to all these services, and people do frequently and often harm me. And every time that it happens, instead of the cops doing their job, they send me on another tour of mental health places at 988. So are you going to turn in Mary to Adult Protective Services?
Am I going to turn you in to Adult Protective Services?
Are you going to turn Mary in to Adult Protective Services?
No, I'm not. But yeah, I was concerned about, you said that you're in an unsafe situation. What's
the unsafe situation is that mandated reporters won't do their jobs. That includes Mary, and that includes you now, Aaron. You're live on my YouTube channel committing these felonies, Aaron. Just as the cops were before you. Just as Mary was before you.
So did you say that you do have some safety concerns?
Ma'am, I told you, yes. My safety concerns are with mandated reporters not doing their jobs and not turning in other mandated reporters as is required by law. You are required to take my report. You are required to turn it into to APS. You are not allowed to deny me the right to turn it in. You're not allowed to do that. When I tell you about crimes that are being committed against me, like I told to Mary, and Mary just wanted to blow me off, that is never okay. It is a felony for you to do that. It is a felony for you to ignore reports by at-risk adults, even if that report is against a mandated reporter, even if you are friends with that mandated reporter, even if that mandated reporter is a hospital worker or a police officer.
Yeah, that's got to be really frustrating. If you have thoughts of suicide and self-harm...
Now you're changing the subject yet again. You are going out of your way to play stupid. You are going out of your way to ignore what I've said and change the subject again. This is the 5th time that you have done this.
You may select one of 3 recorded therapeutic interventions. Press 1 for guided imagery. Press 2 for a body scan relaxation exercise. Press 3 for affirmations. You may select one of 3.
Fuck this goddamn country.